Brent Wilsey and Chase Wilsey, both in studio today. Our millennial investing expert and our investing expert from Wilsey Asset Management. Their website, wilseyassetmanagement.com. I want to talk about a couple of things today. Towards the end, I want to talk about what I talked about at the beginning of the show, and that's all of the outside factors, Brent, that cause the market to run on fear and greed, and why we need to tell people to ignore those. Because I maintain there's 5 outside factors that are going to affect the market, and most of the fish in the barrel are going to let it affect the market. And you're going to stand true to it. I'm going to let you explain that to us later in the program here. But first, Wells Fargo, typical organization that has a sales function that says, if you sell more, we're going to pay you incentives for selling more. That breeds a couple of things. It breeds enthusiasm. It would breed stick-to-itiveness. It would breed incentive. And it would also breed, for some people, the desire to do whatever it takes, legal or illegal, to get that bonus, right?
Not illegal. That should
immoral, maybe?
Well, no, that should not. That should be implied. If I tell you, and again, Chase, he gets paid for accounts coming in and so forth. I don't expect him to hold a knife to somebody and say, "Hey, give me your money." I mean, that's not right. There should be a certain moral standard that you understand.
Well, but there should be. But some people don't think that way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So Wells Fargo, basically here at the end of the day, Wells Fargo is going to stop setting sales goals that the bank employees say it pressured them to open up millions of fake customer accounts. What, the devil made me do it? So it's Wells Fargo's fault that you fence post a bunch of fake straw account holders? Talk to us about the story a little bit.
Sure. And I do have to comment, though. I know you have a nice sweater vest on today. I mean,
it's a little chilly.
Yeah, but Chase, do you think he's going to end up wearing a coat?
Never. No,
I don't know. I mean,
I will
we'll
tell
have
you.
To see.
It's so funny. I have the biggest sport coat. I should say I have a Mel DeMarcos of sport coats. I have more sport coats because every time I'm not on the air, when I got to do an event, I got to dress like you knuckleheads. But here in the studio, I can dress like I want to dress. Right. But yeah, no, I mean, every time I got to wear. So I've got a horrible sport coat addiction, and I need to stop. So, and at some point when I run out of clean clothes, you'll probably see me in a sport coat. Anyway, tell us about this story here, because this is a lot of us own Wells Fargo, whether you know it or not. Wells Fargo stock is a little scary.
It's been affected by it, and what's actually happened again? You kind of covered it to where they were given incentives to sell more products. And what that did was they said they were very famous for cross-selling is what they were famous for. Right. Well, unfortunately, some employees, and actually quite a few employees, started doing things that weren't legal, to where you'd go in and you'd say, okay, I want a checking account, overdraft protection, and maybe a charge card. Well, that employee would say, okay, well, if I sell them 5, I can make a little more money. So they would also sell them maybe another credit card and another product on top of that.
Okay.
So that is obviously wrong, but the thing is, this is sales. I mean, that happens in sales. We can,
but they were also faking some accounts too, and I think that's, so you've got two things going. You've got the fact that it is sales. You're right, and that's the sales. The sales thing that's the devil in the details here.
Yeah.
I think that's it. And then there was also those folks that just faked a bunch of accounts because, well, I sold 3 products. Well, here's another 2 that were basically fence posts or straw buyers. Talk about the sales process in the financial services industry. That's a very dangerous game.
Well, I mean, sales is sales. I don't care if you're selling cars, financial products, computers. Sales has incentive to it. You want salespeople to sell more, so you can give those incentive to do that.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you do anything illegal. And if you're told, and there was one professor from Cambridge who said that it was terrible how they told their employees, do what it takes to make those extra sales. Well, Chase pointed out, well, that means instead of making 50 calls, make 75 calls.
Right.
Don't do anything illegal. And I think one problem that we have now is that this whole thing, and I hate it, where everybody gets a trophy. Well, I think now it's caused people not to be able to work hard. Like, well, I guess I'll just have to do this illegal as opposed to work harder.
See, Chase, did you get participation trophies when you were a kid?
I did, actually.
See, that's the problem.
I actually just tossed them all out.
Because when your dad and I were younger, second place was the first loser.
That's right.
Remember? And our parents beat us.
Right.
If we got in second place. I mean, if we came in second place, it looked like. Didn't happen to you. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, you know,
but it isn't. But your generation has that issue, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, some people just keep them too, and I don't understand why. It's like everyone got one, and I mean, I'm actually just moving right now, and my mom is like, "Do you want your trophies?" And I said,
Only the
No,
first
why
place
would I
was?
want? Yeah, no, that's what I did. I
but-
kept
but
all my all league awards, and I kept, my team captain award, but all my Pop Warner trophies, all the participation medals, I said, I mean, there's no need to keep them. It's
Well,
just
but that's-
unnecessary storage.
Well, that's the part of the problem, though. I mean,
Yeah.
you're delving deeper into what the issue is that when you talk about everybody gets a trophy, it means that everyone thinks they deserve to win for not doing the effort, right?
Exactly.
Talk to us about the Wells Fargo stock because obviously, if you look up the symbol, and Curtis, if you can pull it up for us, it's WFC. Is Wells Fargo's stock symbol. Obviously, it's been a volatile stock. They were at about $50 a share. It dropped pretty significantly on earnings, back at the end of June. Climbed out of the gutter again and has lost. It went from 30 to I don't know, it was like 45 or something like that in the last couple. It's lost a significant amount in the last few days. And if you take a look at that on a technical basis, what you're experiencing there is what's called a double top pattern. So you see the top in June and then a top in September. Historically, what it'll mean is the stock will drop down again. Now, that's not taking any fundamentals into consideration, not taking any news into consideration. So be very careful when you look at a chart like that. But I can tell you also fundamentally, Wells Fargo's not going anywhere, at least for right now, right?
Right, it's not going anywhere. And unfortunately, today it's hard to tell because oil was down, so the whole market's down. So it's hard to tell what this effect is really having on Wells Fargo because it probably would have been down anyways. And it should not have.
When you look at Wells Fargo as a company, because I know you look at the balance sheet and so do you. You look at the filings, you look at the balance sheet, and among other things, on the fundamental basis, when there's a scandal in an organization, it hits the P&L. It hits the balance sheet, but it doesn't necessarily mean the business isn't viable, correct?
Correct.
You got to take a 50,000-foot view.
Right. And also you have to look at how is the business taking care of it. Now, if the business says, no, we didn't do it, and so forth, and it goes on for 6 months, all of a sudden it finds out, like, yes, you guys did, you're in trouble. The CEO of Wells Fargo, John Stump, he came out and said, we're going to take care of our customers, we're going to take care of this. They have already refunded money. What's surprising to me is I think that they've estimated the dollar amount charged, about $2.1 million seems to be what was taken. It's like $12 from people. Terrible.
Yeah.
But compared to the fine of $185 million,
Yeah, right.
It's like you're getting a ticket for driving 10 miles over the speed limit. It's $100,000.
Or if you give you a $500 parking ticket for parking out in front of it.
Exactly.
So they're eliminating product sales goals. They want to make certain, as you said, our customers have full confidence that our retail bankers are always focused on the best interest of the customers. I don't know about you, but one of the major complaints and you deal with these people every day, and you do too, is people hate banks. People just hate going to their banks. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I think one of the reasons we have to talk about that is because there's more than one place to bank. You don't have to bank at your local bank.
That's true.
If you're like Chase Wilsey, you don't even need an ATM because he never has cash in his pocket anyway because he doesn't say he doesn't need it. So you know what? We learned all kinds of lessons today, and the 5 factors that I believe are going to affect the stock market, and Brett's going to tell you why they don't have to. You should listen to what he and his intelligent son has to say. Big Biz Show. We'll see you in a minute.
Asking the hard-hitting questions you want answers to, but mostly just drifting off and staring blankly at the wall. It's the Big Biz Show with Russ and Sully.
Big Biz Show, bigbizshow.com. Thanks for swinging by. Special thanks to our American Forces Network audience, 175 countries and all the ships at sea. God bless our military men and women for their service to our country within our borders and abroad. Get an awful lot of emails from them. And what you ought to be doing now is thinking, since you're 40 years old and facing retirement in the military. Do you ever think about that, Brett? Because when you're in the military, you're facing retirement at age 40.
Age 40.
Of course, you can't retire at age 40. If I were in the military, I was thinking to myself, if you'd gone another route and let's say you were deployed and you're out at sea for 6 months and you weren't married, you could take every nickel you have and sock it away.
Oh, yeah.
You would not have to pay, and that is not what happens.
No, and
I was up in Oceanside this weekend. There's a great restaurant outside, believe it or not. Oceanside here in San Diego is near Camp Pendleton. Camp Pendleton is obviously one of the biggest military bases on the West Coast, and Oceanside is the first city just to the south of Camp Pendleton. It's where all the Marines live. You see a ton of Marines up there, ton of 20-year-old kids look like you with different haircuts.
I used to have that haircut.
There are so many brand new cars in that city. There are so many brand new cars driving around with these kids. I can't believe it. And I'm thinking to myself, you have an opportunity. You get fed for free.
Yeah.
You get clothed for free. So go chase a date on Friday night. But how much money could you save over the course of 5 years?
Well, you know, it's funny because when I was 17, I graduated high school. I went into the service with that intention, like, wow, this is so great. I have free housing, free food. I'm going to come out after 3 years with so much money.
Yeah. And you didn't do it.
Didn't do it
because you were 20 years old.
I was 17. I got out when I was 20, and it's just like, but it's such a great concept. Yeah. But you just like, I bought a little sports car. Sure. I spent money on women. I spent money
because
on
it's the first time in your life you have any dough.
Yeah.
Let's face it. I mean, honestly, it's the first time in your life you have any autonomy and you have any money. So that's a big piece of it. Yeah. Brent Wilsey's here. Chase Wilsey's here. We're talking about the Wells Fargo effect. Let's talk about baby boomers, because baby boomers have been they have to be your biggest client right now, right? Yes. As a financial planner. And for you, do you have baby boomer clients? Are you focusing on the younger crew?
Well, I mean, it's more of a mutual client. So I mean, I always talk to baby boomers as well. I mean, they're our clients, so they'll call me up with questions as well, saying, "What's going on, Chase?" So I'll still talk to them.
So who are more fearful in your opinion, millennials or baby boomers right now? Because let's face it, baby boomers are now facing having to live off of what they did or didn't do in their entire life, and millennials are facing, I don't trust anybody. I'm going to put my money under the mattress. Well, those are the two options, right? So who's more fearful in your mind?
I would say it's a different type of fearful. I mean, a lot of the baby boomers retiring. I mean, I talk to people all the time. They're like, oh, I'm just going to do an annuity because it's guaranteed. It's so much safer. And talking about selling, I have to try and tell them, no, you have to be very realistic with them and say, look, you're going to have volatility, but over the long term, and yes, over the long term, that still means 20, 30 years. You can still live that long. You have to be investing in stocks, because if you invest in a 4% guaranteed fixed income annuity, guess what? If we return to 5% inflation, you're actually losing money.
How do you tell people, Brent, to focus on the long ball versus today? Because that's got to be your biggest conversation, or probably the most frequent conversation you have, especially when the market's going down.
The market's going down. And you just have to, it's like, this is the long term, and you're not looking at it, again, as Chase said, I mean, people 60, they don't realize they're going to easily live another 20 years. And I will say, with a 20-year period, there's never been a rolling 20-year period in the stock market where you lost money.
Right.
And that means you did silly things. You have to do the smart things and buy good quality companies that have good fundamentals. They might go down for a year or two, maybe even 3. But you diversify that portfolio. Look for companies that are going to pay dividends as well. And
you trim your sales at that point. What's interesting is people think that when they retire, they take all their money out and they put it on the kitchen table and look at it.
Exactly.
I don't know anybody that does that. You don't put it on the bed and roll around in it. It's still doing what it's supposed to be doing. Now, that brings me to our last topic here, because you talk about investing in good fundamental companies, low debt on the books. You have certain metrics that you look at with everything. I maintain that is more important now going into the next 4 months than it has been probably maybe in our lifetime, because you have an election cycle that is horribly, it is the worst election cycle that I think any of us have ever seen.
Crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, we're talking, there are theories, and not just like when President Obama was running against John McCain. It is crazy. It's like Kennedy crazy right now. You've also have the energy sort of I'm not going to say crisis, but the volatility in oil that is weighing on the market. Then you got the Fed Reserve, who has nowhere to go other than rumor. I mean, let's face it, Ben Bernanke, Alan Greenspan could actually lower interest rates because interest rates could be lowered, and you saw the stock market go up. Then Ben Bernanke went so low, all they could do is quantitative easing. When we stopped quantitative easing to that level, Janet Yellen has the threat of an interest rate increase. So you have that. And then, of course, let's talk about, we're in a global economy. All goods and services are priced in U.S. dollars. So whatever goes on in Europe, Brexit, the ECB doesn't do things with their interest rate. It affects our stock market. And then, of course, you've got Congress. So you've got literally 5 things going on right now that are pulling on the outside forces. The key here is to ignore them, I would argue, right?
Yeah, come back to looking at the companies. Again, we talk about buying small pieces of large businesses. I know one of your sponsors is Starbucks.
Yeah.
Well, because of Brexit, because of who's going to win the election or who's not going to win the election, are you not going to go to Starbucks and buy that coffee? Right. Or you're not going to go to the store and buy bread to eat tonight? Or you're not going to put maybe new curtains up in your house? You're still going to consume. I mean, consumption is like 70% of our GDP. That's what we look at. Now, in the meantime, and Chase and I were talking about before we came on air, we hope for a pullback in the market because we're starting to send a lot of cash. We have an inverse correlation fund that we want to pull back and take advantage of it, because we look where we'll be not 2 to 3 days, but 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 months down the road, and beyond that, 2 to 3 years. So you're buying these businesses. So we love this volatility because we can take advantage of it.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. I mean, Apple came out today and there's so much uncertainty. Well, guess what? These carriers are saying Apple sales are much better than expected. People are still going out and buying iPhones, even though there's all this craziness going on.
Yeah.
And, Warren Buffett was actually quoted as saying, Charlie Munger's his partner, never have an opinion on the market because you'll miss out on a lot of good opportunities, meaning you have to find those good quality businesses to invest in for the long term.
The interesting part of this thing is, I think personally that if you look at fundamentally speaking, and I'm a guy that looks at technical analysis, but I certainly don't invest just on technical analysis. I can pick a stock like anybody else, but I'm certainly not going to ignore who's in the boardroom, and I'm certainly not going to ignore the news either. I mean, those are the three sort of legs of the milking stool. But what I find here is, and we need to talk about this going forward with you guys later in the week, is how do you talk to your clients about ignoring the fear and the greed pendulum, because that's what's going on right now, and keep them. That's why you need money managers like Brent. Guys, thanks for coming in today. I appreciate it. Brent Wilsey, Chase Wilsey, Wilsey Asset Management. And believe it or not, that does it for us. We are all out of time. And I will tell you can go to their website. Also, I would argue that do you have a Facebook link on your website?
I believe you do. Yes,
You need to get the Facebook link on your website, because these guys do some great stuff on Facebook that you guys should watch. I think they even mentioned me a couple of times.
And it's in good terms, too. There you go.
Yes, exactly right. Chris Yannick is our director. Curtis Madden is our assistant director. David Capito is our producer. I'm Sully. You can follow me on Twitter at Sully on the air. Rusty Nail's back with us next Monday. His website, russisfunny.com, because russisfatandball.com is taken. Don't forget our good friends, Wilsey Asset Management. We'll see you tomorrow.